The morning sun streamed through the blinds of a downtown penthouse office as Andre Phillips reviewed the quarterly reports on his desk. As the founder and CEO of Horizon Technologies, a company now valued at over $500 million, he had come a long way from his humble beginnings in South Chicago. The sleek glass-walled office with its view of the city skyline stood as a testament to his journey, but lately, something had been bothering him. Andre set down his coffee mug and looked out at the city below. Last week, during a leadership dinner, 3 of his executives had shared stories about their experiences at high-end car dealerships. His chief marketing officer had described being followed around a showroom, while his VP of operations mentioned being directed to the more affordable models, despite asking about the premium line. The pattern was clear, and it matched stories Andre had heard throughout his life. "They don't know who you are until you tell them," his grandfather used to say. The words echoed in his mind as he picked up his phone and called his assistant. "Morning, boss," came the cheerful voice on the other end. "Hey, I need to reschedule my morning meetings." "Something important came up," Andre said, an idea forming in his mind. "Also, could you research luxury car dealerships in the area? We need to purchase some executive vehicles soon." After hanging up, Andre walked to the large closet in his office where he kept spare clothes for overnight work sessions or morning gym visits. He bypassed his tailored suits and selected a plain navy t-shirt, jeans that were slightly worn at the knees, and casual sneakers. He looked in the mirror as he changed. Without his usual custom-made suit, designer watch, and the confident posture he had cultivated over years in boardrooms, he looked like any other guy on the street. That was exactly what he wanted. Andre had built his company on understanding how people behave when they think no one is watching. Horizon Technologies specialized in customer experience software that helped businesses identify and fix gaps in their service. He often told his team, "We don't just sell software, we sell the truth about how businesses really treat people." Today, he would experience that truth firsthand. His assistant had sent over information about several dealerships, with Elite Motors at the top of the list. Known for their luxury vehicles and high-profile clientele, they had 5 stars on most review sites. But Andre knew better than most how reviews could be filtered and managed to create a specific image. Before leaving, he checked his company email one last time. The notification about the fleet purchase approval had come through. His board had green-lighted the purchase of 12 executive vehicles with a budget of over $1.5 million. This wasn't just a test, it was real business on the line. The drive to Elite Motors took about 30 minutes, giving Andre time to slip into character. He turned off his usual business podcasts and put on music instead, trying to relax his posture and shed the executive presence he had worked so hard to build. He parked his Tesla, the only hint of his actual status, a block away, and walked the rest to the dealership. Elite Motors was impressive from the outside, a gleaming glass and steel structure with fountains flanking the entrance and perfectly polished vehicles displayed on rotating platforms visible through the windows, the kind of place where dreams were sold at premium prices. As Andre pushed through the heavy glass doors, cool air and the subtle scent of leather greeted him. The showroom was immaculate, with polished tile floors reflecting the overhead lights and creating an almost museum-like atmosphere around the vehicles. Each car had its own space, like art installations in a gallery of automotive excellence. Despite it being a Tuesday morning, the showroom was quiet. Andre counted only 3 customers, an older couple being attentively helped by a salesperson at the far end, and a middle-aged man in a suit examining a sports car with another staff member hovering nearby. He walked slowly toward a sleek black sedan, the kind his chief technology officer had mentioned wanting. The vehicle's specifications were displayed on a small digital screen beside it. Andre bent slightly to read about the engine capacity and technology features, mentally comparing them to what his team would need. After several minutes of moving between vehicles, Andre noticed something odd. In a showroom with at least 5 visible staff members, not one had approached him. 2 employees behind the reception desk kept glancing his way, then returning to their conversation, occasionally laughing. Finally, after nearly 10 minutes of being completely ignored while standing beside one of the most expensive models, a young salesman walked over. The man's body language was stiff, his smile not quite reaching his eyes as he gave Andre a quick once-over. "Can I help you?" The tone suggested he doubted he could. Yes, Andre said, keeping his voice casual and friendly. I'm interested in this model and had some questions about the executive package options. The salesman's eyebrows rose slightly. The executive package? This particular vehicle starts at $95,000 before any additions. He emphasized the price as if it were a polite way to end the conversation. That's fine, Andre replied. I'm actually looking to purchase several vehicles. Is there someone who handles fleet sales? The salesman's expression shifted from dismissive to uncertain. He glanced back at the reception desk where an older man in a better suit was watching them. Let me check with my manager, the salesman said before walking away. Andre continued examining the vehicle, running his hand along its smooth finish while keeping an eye on the staff's reactions in the reflection of the car windows. The salesman was now speaking with who appeared to be the manager, both occasionally looking in his direction. After a brief conversation, not the manager but a different salesperson approached, one who appeared more junior than the first. Sir, the new salesperson began with an artificial smile, I understand you're interested in our vehicles, but our fleet specialist isn't available today. Perhaps you could leave your information, and we can call you when they return. Andre nodded, maintaining his friendly demeanor. When would that be? I'm hoping to move forward fairly quickly on this purchase. The salesperson shifted uncomfortably. It's hard to say. Our policy for, certain inquiries is to gather information first and then schedule appointments with specialists later. Certain inquiries? Andre asked, his voice still pleasant but with an edge of curiosity. Before the salesperson could respond, the manager approached, inserting himself into the conversation with a tight smile. There seems to be some confusion, the manager said smoothly. We're quite busy with scheduled appointments today. Perhaps it would be better if you waited outside? We could take your name and have someone contact you when we have more time to properly assist. He gestured toward the door, where a few metal benches sat under the building's overhang. Andre looked outside. Dark clouds had gathered, and the first few raindrops were beginning to fall. The message was clear. He wasn't seen as a serious customer, and they'd rather have him out of sight than in their showroom. Is that where all potential customers wait? Andre asked, nodding toward an older white couple who had just entered and were immediately greeted by a salesperson. The manager's smile became fixed. Sir, we're simply trying to provide the best service to everyone based on our current capacity and appointment schedule. I understand, Andre said, his voice calm. And just to be clear, you want me to wait outside in the rain while you help the people who just walked in? The manager's expression hardened slightly. Sir, if you're going to be difficult, perhaps this isn't the right dealership for your needs. Andre nodded slowly as if considering this advice. You know what? I think I'll make a call first, then decide. He walked toward the exit, feeling the eyes of several staff members on his back. As he stepped outside, the rain had begun to fall more steadily. Standing under the minimal shelter of the overhang, Andre pulled out his phone and made a call. Hey, it's me, he said when his assistant answered. Could you bring the company portfolio and my gray suit jacket to Elite Motors? And maybe grab my business cards too, the ones with the company logo. He paused, looking back through the glass at the showroom where the staff had already moved on, dismissing him from their minds. Why? Andre continued with a small smile forming. Because I think they're about to learn an expensive lesson about judging books by their covers. As he ended the call, Andre settled onto one of the metal benches to wait, watching as the rain fell harder, much like the realization that would soon pour down on the unsuspecting dealership staff. The rain fell harder as Andre sat on the cold metal bench outside Elite Motors. He watched through the glass as customers came and went, each one greeted with smiles and handshakes that he had been denied. 20 minutes had passed since he'd been asked to wait outside, and his clothes were starting to dampen despite the narrow overhang. An older woman hurried past him into the showroom, clutching her designer purse against the rain. Within seconds, 2 salespeople approached her, offering coffee and a tour of their newest models. Andre shook his head slightly but kept his expression neutral. This wasn't the first time he'd experienced this kind of treatment, but it was the first time he was in a position to do something meaningful about it. His phone buzzed with a text from his assistant. 5 minutes away. Andre used the time to observe the dealership's operations through the window. He counted 8 employees on the floor, 3 of them standing idle at various points in the showroom, occasionally glancing at their phones or chatting with each other. There was no shortage of staff to help him. There had only been a shortage of interest. A sleek black company SUV pulled into the parking lot, and Andre recognized his assistant, Dion, behind the wheel. Unlike Andre's deliberately casual outfit, Dion was dressed in his usual crisp suit, looking every bit the executive assistant to a major CEO. He parked in one of the VIP spots near the entrance, spots that had been empty when Andre arrived, but which no one had directed him to. Dion stepped out with an umbrella and a leather portfolio tucked under his arm. He spotted Andre and hurried over, concern crossing his face when he saw his boss sitting outside in the damp. "Everything okay?" Dion asked quietly, holding the umbrella over both of them. Andre stood up and straightened his now slightly damp t-shirt. "Just collecting data," he replied with a small smile. "Did you bring everything?" Dion nodded and handed over the portfolio and a gray suit jacket. "Company financials, the fleet purchase approval from the board, and your business cards are all in there. Also brought that industry magazine with you on the cover from last month, just in case." "Perfect," Andre said, slipping on the jacket over his t-shirt. The transformation was subtle but effective, even in jeans. The tailored jacket gave him an air of authority. He took the portfolio and extracted a business card, running his thumb over the embossed Horizon Technologies logo. "Let's see how quickly perceptions can change." As they walked toward the entrance, Dion asked, "Want me to go in first or together?" "Together," Andre replied. "But hang back a bit. I want to see if they recognize me without any introduction." They pushed through the glass doors, and Andre noticed how different it felt walking in this time. Jacket on, portfolio in hand, assistant by his side. The same receptionist who had been watching him earlier glanced up, then did a double take at his changed appearance. Andre walked directly to the center of the showroom, where the most expensive car was displayed on a rotating platform. He stood there looking at the vehicle with genuine interest, counting silently in his head. 3, 2, 1. "Sir, can I help you?" It was the manager who had suggested he wait outside, approaching with a professional smile that faltered slightly when he got a better look at Andre's face. "Yes, I think you can," Andre replied calmly, turning to face him. "I was here about 20 minutes ago asking about fleet vehicles. You suggested I wait outside in the rain." The manager's smile froze, his eyes darting to the suit jacket, the portfolio, and then to Dion standing a few paces behind. Confusion crossed his face, followed by the first flickers of recognition and alarm. There must be some misunderstanding," the manager stammered. "We simply had a busy schedule and wanted to make sure you received proper attention." Andre nodded thoughtfully. "Interesting. The showroom doesn't seem particularly busy. In fact, I counted 3 of your staff with nothing to do while I was sitting out there getting wet." By now, other employees had noticed the conversation and were watching with curious expressions. The first salesperson who had initially ignored Andre was whispering to a colleague, both of them looking increasingly uncomfortable. "Perhaps we got off on the wrong foot," the manager said, extending his hand. "I'm Richard Hartwell, general manager of Elite Motors." "And you are?" Andre reached into his pocket and handed over his business card. "Andre Phillips, CEO of Horizon Technologies." The effect was immediate. Richard's face paled as he read the card, his eyes widening in recognition. Horizon Technologies was a name most business people in the city knew, a success story that had been featured in numerous publications. "Mr. Phillips, we had no idea," Richard said, his voice dropping to an almost reverential tone. "Please accept my sincere apologies for the confusion earlier." Andre kept his expression neutral. "Was it confusion, Mr. Hartwell? Or was it something else?" Before Richard could respond, a tall man in an expensive suit emerged from an office at the back of the showroom. He moved with the confidence of someone in charge, his smile broad and practiced as he approached. "I thought I recognized that name," the man said warmly, extending his hand. "Andre Phillips. I read your feature in Business Today last month. Incredible work you're doing with customer experience technology. I'm David Preston, owner of Elite Motors." Andre shook his hand but didn't return the smile. "Mr. Preston, I've had an interesting experience at your dealership today. One that I think you should know about." David's smile dimmed slightly. "Oh, I hope everything has been satisfactory." "Far from it," Andre replied. He gestured to Dion. "My assistant is going to take notes if you don't mind." I'd like to walk you through exactly what happened. David's eyes flicked nervously to Richard, then back to Andre. Of course. Perhaps we should continue this conversation in my office? Actually, Andre said, I'd prefer to stay right here. The issues I experienced happened in this showroom, in front of your staff, so I think that's where we should address them. By now, a small cluster of employees had gathered nearby, pretending to be busy but clearly listening. A few customers were watching with interest as well. When I arrived earlier, Andre continued, his voice measured but clear enough to carry. I was dressed casually. No jacket, no assistant. Just a regular person interested in making a significant purchase. I spent 10 minutes being completely ignored despite being the only unattended customer in the showroom. He gestured toward the receptionist desk. Your staff over there found me interesting enough to discuss and laugh about, but not interesting enough to help. When someone finally approached me, they emphasized the price as if to discourage me, and when I mentioned fleet vehicles, your manager here, he nodded toward Richard, suggested I wait outside in the rain rather than in your showroom. David's expression had grown increasingly concerned. Mr. Phillips, I assure you this is not how we conduct business at Elite Motors. Isn't it? Andre asked. Because it happened less than 30 minutes ago. The only thing that's changed is my jacket and the revelation of who I am. He opened his portfolio and removed a document, handing it to David. This is a board-approved purchase order for 12 executive vehicles for Horizon Technologies. The budget is $1.5 million. We were evaluating several dealerships, and I decided to conduct my own research on how they treat potential customers. David stared at the document, the color draining from his face as he realized the magnitude of the opportunity they had nearly lost. The interesting thing about customer experience, Andre continued, is that people show their true character when they think no one important is watching. My company builds software that helps businesses identify these moments and improve them. But sometimes the old-fashioned approach of seeing for yourself works best. By now, the showroom had fallen completely silent. Even the customers had stopped their conversations to listen. Mr. Phillips, David said, his voice subdued. I don't know what to say except that I'm deeply sorry. This behavior does not reflect our values or policies. Andre looked around at the staff, many of whom couldn't meet his eyes. Doesn't it? Because everyone here participated, either actively or by standing by. Not one person thought to simply treat me with basic respect when I was in jeans instead of a jacket. He turned back to David. Here's what's going to happen next. I'm going to leave, and you're going to have a serious conversation with your team about how they treat people. All people, regardless of how they're dressed or what they look like. Absolutely. David nodded quickly. I promise this will be addressed immediately. Good, Andre said. Because I'll be back tomorrow, maybe in these clothes, maybe in something else. And I'll have colleagues visit as well, some in suits, some not. How they're treated will determine whether Horizon does business with Elite Motors. He handed David his card. My direct number is on there. I expect a call tomorrow with specific details on what changes you're implementing. Without waiting for a response, Andre turned and began walking toward the exit, Dion falling in step beside him. As they reached the doors, he paused and looked back at the stunned faces watching him. One more thing, Andre said. The next time someone walks through those doors, remember that you never really know who they are or what opportunity they represent until you give them the respect of finding out. As they stepped outside, the rain had stopped and weak sunlight was breaking through the clouds. Andre handed the portfolio back to Dion as they walked to the company SUV. Was it worth sitting in the rain for? Dion asked quietly. Andre looked back at the dealership where he could see David already gathering his staff for what appeared to be an intense conversation. We'll see tomorrow, he replied. But at the very least, I think some people's perspectives just got a much-needed adjustment. The drive back to Horizon Technologies headquarters was quiet. Andre stared out the window, replaying the events at Elite Motors in his mind. Beside him, Dion navigated through midday traffic, occasionally glancing at his boss with a mixture of concern and admiration. You're thinking about something, Dion finally said as they stopped at a red light. I can practically hear the gears turning. Andre smiled slightly. I'm thinking this is bigger than one dealership. What happened today? It happens everywhere, every day to people who don't have the power to do anything about it. So what are you planning? Dion knew that look on Andre's face. It was the same expression he'd worn before launching their most successful products. I'm not sure yet, Andre replied as the light turned green. But I know it starts with following through tomorrow, and maybe turning this into something more than just getting better service for myself. When they arrived at the Horizon Technologies building, Andre didn't change back into his usual business attire. Instead, he walked through the glass doors of the 30-story building still wearing his jeans and t-shirt, though he kept the suit jacket on. The security guard at the front desk did a double take but quickly recovered with a respectful nod. "Afternoon, Mr. Phillips." Andre nodded back. "Afternoon, Ray. How's your son doing in college?" The guard's face lit up. "Made the dean's list last semester." "Thanks for asking, sir." As Andre and Dion rode the elevator to the executive floor, Dion checked his phone. "Your 2 o'clock meeting with the board is in 20 minutes. Want me to grab you a proper shirt?" Andre shook his head. "No, I think I'll keep this look for now. It's been educational." The elevator doors opened to reveal the sleek modern offices of Horizon Technologies. Glass walls separated workspaces, giving the floor an open, transparent feel. Several employees looked up as Andre passed, surprise registering on their faces at his unusual attire, but no one commented. He stopped by his chief operating officer's office. Vanessa Wu was on the phone but waved him in when she saw him at her door. Her eyebrows rose slightly at his clothing, but she finished her call professionally before addressing it. "New dress code I wasn't informed about?" she asked with a hint of amusement. Andre closed the door and briefly explained what had happened at Elite Motors. Vanessa's expression grew serious as he spoke. "Unfortunately, I'm not surprised," she said when he finished. "My husband gets the same treatment at high-end stores all the time, even though he's a surgeon. It's exhausting. I need a favor," Andre said, leaning forward. "I told them I'd send other people to test their service. Would you be willing to go tomorrow? Dressed however you normally would for a Saturday." Vanessa nodded without hesitation. "Absolutely. And I know exactly who else to send, Keith from legal and maybe Zoe from marketing. Both have mentioned similar experiences." "Perfect," Andre said. "Don't tell them you're coming from Horizon. Just go in as a regular customer interested in their higher-end models. I want to see if anything changes after today." Their conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. It was Dion reminding Andre about the board meeting. As they walked to the conference room, Andre explained his emerging plan. "I think we might have found our next project," he said. "What if we developed a module for our customer experience platform that specifically addresses bias in customer service?" Dion looked thoughtful. "Using what metrics?" "That's what we need to figure out," Andre replied as they reached the boardroom. "But first, I have a feeling I'm about to get some interesting reactions from our board." He wasn't wrong. As he entered the boardroom, conversation stopped mid-sentence as the board members took in his casual appearance. Most of them were in their 60s, dressed in expensive suits and clearly surprised by their CEO's attire. "Gentlemen, ladies," Andre nodded, taking his seat at the head of the table. "Thanks for making time today." Lawrence Chen, the chairman of the board, cleared his throat. "Andre, is everything all right?" "This is unusual for you," Andre smiled. "Actually, Lawrence, I've had an enlightening day, and it's directly relevant to what I want to discuss with all of you." For the next 15 minutes, Andre recounted his experience at Elite Motors, watching as expressions around the table ranged from shock to knowing nods. When he finished, he leaned forward, placing his hands on the table. "This isn't just about one bad experience. It's about a systemic issue that affects businesses and consumers, and I believe Horizon Technologies is uniquely positioned to address it." The board listened intently as Andre outlined his vision for a new addition to their software platform, a system that would help businesses identify and address unconscious bias in customer service. "We already track customer interactions and satisfaction metrics," he explained. "With some modifications, we could help businesses ensure they're providing the same level of service to everyone, regardless of appearance or background." Lawrence looked skeptical. "It's an admirable goal, Andre, but how do we measure something as subjective as bias? And more importantly, how do we sell it?" Andre had anticipated this question. "We measure what we always measure: wait times, attention from staff, language used, follow-up rates, but we cross-reference it with customer demographics. As for selling it, we position it as what it is: a tool to help businesses avoid losing valuable customers due to unconscious bias. What happened to me today could have cost Elite Motors a $1.5 million sale. That's a concrete business problem we can help solve." The discussion continued for another hour, with board members raising questions and concerns but ultimately warming to the idea. By the end of the meeting, Andre had approval to form a development team and begin work on a prototype. As the board members filed out, Lawrence hung back. He was the oldest member of the board, having been with the company since its early days. "You know," he said quietly to Andre, "I've been a black man in business for over 40 years. What happened to you today has happened to me more times than I can count. The difference is, in my day, we just had to swallow it and move on. I'm proud to see you using your position to create real change." Andre nodded, a lump forming in his throat. "Thank you, Lawrence. That means a lot." After the board meeting, Andre gathered a small team of engineers, designers, and marketing specialists to begin brainstorming the new project. Energy in the room was high as people shared their own experiences and ideas for how technology could help address the problem. By late afternoon, Andre finally changed back into his usual business attire for an investor call. As he knotted his tie, he caught his reflection in the office window. The suit felt different somehow, like he was seeing it through new eyes. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. He opened it to find a message from David Preston, the owner of Elite Motors. "Mr. Phillips, I can't express how deeply troubled I am by what happened today. I've spent the afternoon in meetings with all staff. 3 employees have been suspended pending further review, including Richard. I would very much appreciate the chance to speak with you directly tomorrow to share the changes we're implementing. I understand if you never want to do business with us, but I hope you'll give us the opportunity to make this right." Andre read the message twice before setting his phone down. It was a start, but he'd heard promises before. Tomorrow would show whether David was serious about making changes or just trying to save a big sale. As evening fell, Andre sat in his office finalizing the details for the next day's follow-up visits to Elite Motors. Vanessa would go in the morning, Keith at lunchtime, and Zoe in the afternoon. Each would provide detailed notes on their experience. His assistant knocked on the door, coat in hand. "Car's waiting whenever you're ready to head home, boss." Andre nodded, gathering his things. "Thanks, Dion. Big day tomorrow." "You think anything will actually change at that dealership?" Dion asked as they walked toward the elevator. Andre considered the question carefully. "I think when money and reputation are at stake, people pay attention. The real question is whether the change will be superficial or meaningful." As they rode down to the lobby, Andre couldn't help but think about all the people who experienced what he had today, but didn't have the power to make anyone listen. The weight of that responsibility settled on his shoulders. "Not uncomfortably, but with purpose, you know," he said as they exited the building. "When I started Horizon, I wanted to build technology that made businesses better. I never expected that better would mean more than just efficient or profitable." Dion nodded. "Sometimes the most important problems to solve aren't the ones we set out to tackle." Andre looked up at the Horizon Technologies logo illuminated against the darkening sky. "Tomorrow's just the beginning. We have a lot of work to do." As his car pulled away from the curb, Andre made a mental note to call his grandfather in the morning. The old man had been right all along. People didn't know who you were until you told them. But maybe, just maybe, technology could help change that reality for the next generation. Morning sunlight streamed through the blinds as Andre finished his call with his grandfather. The old man had chuckled when Andre told him about the dealership incident, not with humor but with the knowing laugh of someone who had seen it all before. "You remember what I always told you?" his grandfather had asked. "They don't know who you are until you tell them," Andre recited. "That's right, but you're doing something I never could, making them see everybody, not just yourself. I'm proud of you, son." Those words stayed with Andre as he prepared for the day ahead. By 9:30 a.m., he was in his office reviewing the detailed plan for testing Elite Motors. Vanessa had already texted that she was on her way to the dealership. Dressed in casual weekend clothes as instructed, Andre's phone rang. "David Preston, the owner of Elite Motors, Mr. Phillips. Thank you for taking my call," David began, his voice carrying the careful tone of someone navigating dangerous waters. "I wanted to update you personally on the actions we've taken since yesterday." Andre put the call on speaker so Dion, who had just entered with coffee, could hear. "I'm listening." "First, Richard Hartwell has been terminated, effective immediately," David said, as have 2 other staff members who were directly involved. "We've also scheduled mandatory training for all remaining employees starting today at noon." Andre raised an eyebrow at Dion, who nodded, making a note. That's a start, Andre replied. What kind of training? We've brought in a diversity consultant who specializes in retail environments, David explained. She's beginning with a 4-hour session today, followed by ongoing training and evaluation over the next 6 months. Good, Andre said. And what about systemic changes to prevent this from happening again? There was a slight pause. That's actually why I was hoping to meet with you in person. Given your company's expertise in customer experience technology, I thought you might have insights that could help us implement more structural solutions. Andre considered this. It wasn't what he had expected. He'd anticipated damage control, not a request for help. I might be available this afternoon. Let me check my schedule and get back to you. After ending the call, Andre turned to Dayon. What do you think? Is he sincere or just trying to save the deal? Dion shrugged. Hard to tell over the phone. But firing the manager on the spot seems like more than just damage control. Andre nodded. Let's see what our people report back first. At 10:45 a.m., Vanessa called. She had just left Elite Motors after spending an hour there. Her experience had been remarkably different from Andre's. The moment I walked in, someone greeted me, she reported. They offered coffee, gave me their full attention, and never once mentioned prices in a way that suggested I couldn't afford the cars. It was like night and day compared to what you described. Did you get any sense they knew you were from Horizon? Andre asked. No, I was careful about that. Used my maiden name and personal email for the follow-up information they requested, Vanessa replied. But there was something else interesting. They had a woman in a suit observing everything from the corner. Taking notes. I'm guessing that's the consultant David mentioned. By lunchtime, Keith from Legal had reported a similar experience. Respectful treatment, attentive service, no pressure tactics. The only hiccup came when a salesperson mentioned that they were making changes to ensure every customer feels valued, regardless of appearance, suggesting they knew they were being tested. As Andre was considering these reports, his phone buzzed with a text from Zoe in marketing. You won't believe this. When I arrived, the owner himself came out to greet me. They're definitely on high alert. Service was impeccable, but felt like they were walking on eggshells. Call you in 20 with details. Andre leaned back in his chair, processing this information. The dealership was clearly making an effort, but was it just for show? And more importantly, was it sustainable? He made a decision and called David Preston. I can meet you at 3 p.m. today. Not at the dealership, though. There's a coffee shop called Riverfront Cafe 2 blocks from your location. I'll have a table in the back. At precisely 3 p.m., Andre sat at a corner table in the busy cafe, dressed in a casual button-down shirt and slacks, neither fully formal nor as casual as his test outfit. He watched as David entered, scanning the room nervously before spotting Andre. Mr. Phillips, thank you for meeting me, David said, extending his hand. He looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes, suggesting a sleepless night. Andre gestured to the chair across from him. I've heard from some colleagues who visited your dealership today. It seems things are running differently than yesterday. David nodded, clasping his hands on the table. We're trying, but I know one day of good behavior doesn't erase what happened. No, it doesn't, Andre agreed. Which brings me to my question. Why should I believe this change will last beyond the time it takes to secure our business? David took a deep breath. That's fair. The truth is, Mr. Phillips, what happened yesterday forced me to confront something I've been avoiding. I've owned that dealership for 15 years, and I've always prided myself on running a high-class establishment. But somewhere along the way, that became an excuse for the kind of exclusionary behavior you experienced. He paused, looking Andre in the eye. I'm not asking for your business to save the deal. I'm asking for your help to fix a problem that's bigger than one bad day or one lost sale. Andre studied him carefully. What kind of help are you looking for exactly? Your company builds systems that track and improve customer experience, right? I want to implement something that holds us accountable, not just for a few weeks or months, but permanently. Something that measures how we treat every customer, regardless of how they look or what they wear. Andre hadn't expected this level of self-awareness. That's actually something we're developing. A module specifically designed to identify bias in customer interactions. That's exactly what we need, David said, leaning forward eagerly. Would you consider allowing Elite Motors to be a test case? We could provide real-world feedback as you develop it. The conversation continued for over an hour, with David sharing his background and how he'd risen from salesperson to owner, Without ever truly questioning the unspoken practices of the luxury car business, Andre explained his vision for technology that could help businesses see their blind spots and improve. By the time they finished their second round of coffee, a framework for collaboration had emerged. Elite Motors would become the first test site for Horizon's new anti-bias module, providing valuable data and feedback. In return, Horizon would help the dealership build a more equitable customer service model. "There's one more thing," Andre said as they prepared to leave. "If we do this, it can't be secret. I want to document the process and share it publicly as a case study. Complete transparency." David hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Agreed. If we're going to change, we should be willing to show others how it's done." As they shook hands outside the cafe, David asked, "And the fleet purchase? Is that still a possibility?" Andre smiled slightly. "Let's see how the next 3 months go. If the changes stick, we'll revisit it." Back at Horizon headquarters later that afternoon, Andre called an all-hands meeting to share the new partnership. Standing on a small stage in the company's open atrium, he looked out at the diverse faces of his team. "Yesterday, something happened that many of you have experienced yourselves," he began, recounting his experience at Elite Motors. "But today we're turning that moment into an opportunity for change." He explained the partnership with Elite Motors and the accelerated development timeline for the new anti-bias module. "This isn't just about cars or dealerships," he continued. "It's about creating technology that helps businesses see everyone, truly see them, regardless of appearance, background, or circumstance. And in doing so, we're not just improving customer service. We're taking a small but meaningful step toward a more equitable world." The room erupted in applause, with many employees rising to their feet. Andre spotted Vanessa in the crowd, nodding her approval, and Dayon at the back, giving him a thumbs up. After the meeting, Andre retreated to his office to begin drafting the formal agreement with Elite Motors. As he worked, he kept thinking about his grandfather's words. "They don't know who you are until you tell them." Maybe that was true, he thought. But with the right tools and genuine commitment to change, perhaps businesses could learn to see people for who they were before being told, to treat everyone with the same respect and attention, regardless of appearance or status. His phone buzzed with a text from David. "Just held another staff meeting. Everyone's on board with the partnership. Thank you for turning our mistake into an opportunity to be better." Andre set his phone down, looking out his office window at the city below. In one of those buildings, a luxury car dealership was beginning a transformation that might seem small in the grand scheme of things, but could ripple outward in ways no one could predict. Sometimes, he realized, the most powerful change started with a simple act, like walking into a car dealership in jeans and a t-shirt, and walking out with a purpose that went far beyond buying a fleet of cars. 3 months had passed since that rainy day at Elite Motors. Autumn had given way to winter, and the city streets were decorated with holiday lights that reflected off fresh snow. Andre stood at his office window watching people hurry below, bundled against the cold. "Ready for the big reveal?" Dion asked, entering with a tablet in hand. Andre turned from the window with a slight smile. "As ready as we'll ever be." "How are the numbers looking?" "See for yourself," Dion replied, handing over the tablet. 3 months of data from Elite Motors analyzed through our new Equitable Experience platform. Andre scrolled through the report, nodding as he absorbed the information. The screen showed colorful graphs and charts measuring customer wait times, staff attentiveness, follow-up rates, and dozens of other metrics, all broken down by customer demographics. "The change is remarkable," Andre murmured. "Average wait time for all customers, regardless of appearance or dress, has evened out completely. Sales follow-up is consistent across all groups. Even the language analysis shows the same level of respectful terminology used with everyone." Dion nodded. David really followed through. Their staff turnover was higher than expected in the first month. About 20% left, saying they weren't comfortable with the new direction, but the new hires are showing excellent scores. Andre handed back the tablet. "Let's head over. I want to see it in person before the press arrives." 30 minutes later, Andre's car pulled up to Elite Motors. The exterior looked the same, sleek and modern, but a new sign near the entrance caught his eye. "Everyone welcome. No appointment necessary." It was a small change, but a meaningful one. Inside, the showroom was busy with holiday shoppers. Andre spotted David across the floor. speaking with an elderly couple dressed in simple, practical winter clothes. The owner was fully engaged, showing them the same respect and attention Andre had seen given to wealthy-looking customers in the past. When David saw Andre, he excused himself politely and came over with an extended hand. "The man of the hour. I was beginning to think you might not show up for your own success story." Andre shook his hand with a genuine smile. "I wanted to observe for a few minutes first. Old habits die hard. And, what's your assessment?" David asked, gesturing around the showroom. "Impressive," Andre admitted. "Your team is engaging with everyone equally. No one's waiting outside in the snow for one thing." David laughed, though there was a hint of embarrassment in it. "We've come a long way. Not perfect yet, but we're trying. The system your team built has been invaluable. There's nowhere to hide when the data shows exactly who's getting attention and who isn't." They walked toward the back of the showroom where a small stage had been set up for the press conference. Reporters from local news stations and business publications were already gathering, setting up cameras and checking microphones. "Nervous?" Andre asked. David straightened his tie. "About admitting publicly that my business had a bias problem?" "Terrified, but it's the right thing to do." Vanessa approached, tablet in hand. "Final numbers are in from the customer satisfaction surveys. Elite Motors has gone from a 62% overall satisfaction rate to 94% in 3 months. Even more impressive, the satisfaction rates are now consistent across all customer demographics." "That's what we wanted to hear," Andre said, then turned to David. "And the sales figures?" David smiled broadly. "Up 38% compared to the same quarter last year. Turns out treating everyone like they matter is good for business. Who knew?" The press conference began promptly at noon. Cameras flashed as Andre and David took the stage, joined by Vanessa and the diversity consultant who had helped train the Elite Motors staff. David spoke first, surprising Andre with his candor. 3 months ago, the CEO of Horizon Technologies walked into the showroom dressed in casual clothes and was treated poorly because of assumptions our staff made based on his appearance. It was a wake-up call that forced us to confront the biases embedded in our business practices. He went on to outline the changes implemented at Elite Motors, the training programs, the staffing changes, and most importantly, the partnership with Horizon Technologies that had led to the development of the Equitable Experience platform. When it was Andre's turn to speak, he stepped to the microphone with a clear sense of purpose. "What happened to me that day happens to people every day in businesses across this country. The difference is, most don't have the power to demand change. Today we're introducing technology that gives businesses the tools to see these patterns and correct them. Not because they're afraid of losing a big sale, but because it's the right thing to do for all their customers." He demonstrated the Equitable Experience platform, showing how it tracked customer interactions and flagged potential bias in real time. "This isn't about shaming businesses or individuals," he explained. "It's about creating awareness and accountability. The data doesn't lie, but it also doesn't judge. It simply shows the truth so we can do better." After the formal presentation, reporters asked questions, many directed at David about the difficult decision to go public with the story. "Weren't you concerned about damaging your reputation?" one asked. David nodded. "Initially, yes, but I realized that hiding the problem would be worse than acknowledging it. By being transparent about our journey, we've actually strengthened our reputation as a business that values every customer." As the press conference wound down, Andre noticed a familiar face at the back of the room. His grandfather had come, dressed in his Sunday best despite it being a weekday. Andre excused himself and made his way through the crowd. "I didn't know you were coming," he said, embracing the older man. His grandfather patted his back. "And miss seeing my grandson change the world?" "Not a chance." "I wouldn't call it changing the world," Andre said modestly. "Maybe not the whole world at once," his grandfather replied, looking around the showroom. "But you're changing it piece by piece. That counts for something." After the reporters had left, Andre gathered with his team and the Elite Motors staff for a more private celebration. Champagne was poured and David raised his glass. "To new beginnings," he toasted. "And to the day Andre Phillips walked into my dealership and walked out having changed it forever." Glasses clinked and conversation flowed freely. Andre found himself standing with his grandfather near one of the luxury cars. "You know," the old man said quietly, "when I told you they don't know who you are until you tell them. I never imagined you'd find a way to make them see everyone, not just yourself." Andre smiled. "That's the real change we needed. Not special treatment for those with power, but equal treatment for everyone. As the evening drew to a close, Andre prepared to leave. The Horizon team had already departed, and his grandfather was waiting in the car. At the door, David stopped him. "There's something I've been meaning to ask," David said. "That fleet order you mentioned on the first day, was that real or just part of the test?" Andre laughed. "It was real. We actually do need 12 executive vehicles." "And? Will Elite Motors get the contract?" Andre extended his hand. "Send over the paperwork tomorrow. But this time, I expect the best price you'd give any customer. No special treatment." David shook his hand firmly. "Absolutely. That's our policy now, thanks to you." Outside, snow was falling gently as Andre walked to his car. His grandfather rolled down the window. "All done changing the world for today?" Andre smiled, brushing snow from his coat. "For today, but we're just getting started." As they drove away, Andre looked back at Elite Motors, now closed for the evening but still brightly lit, showcasing its gleaming cars to passing traffic. What had begun as an uncomfortable moment of discrimination had transformed into something powerful. A partnership that was already expanding to other businesses across the city. Next week, 2 more dealerships would begin implementing the Equitable Experience platform. The month after that, a major department store chain. Small changes, perhaps, in the grand scheme of things. But as his grandfather had said, changing the world piece by piece still counted for something. Andre's phone buzzed with a message from Vanessa. "Just got a call from National Business Journal. They want to feature our platform in their Innovations That Matter issue. This is getting bigger than we thought." He smiled as he typed his reply. It always was bigger than one dealership or one CEO. That was the point. His grandfather glanced over. "Good news?" Andre nodded, putting his phone away and watching the snowy city pass by outside. "Just confirmation that sometimes the most important journeys start when someone tells you to wait outside."